Hi, Rob. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Good. Nice to see you. Thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So, I thought we would just do kind of conversational because you've got a book that you're promoting, right? Your book is called The Organ Pipes of the Soul. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's the main title. There's a long subtitle
What's the
of
subtitle?
A Theodicy of Love and Reincarnation in a Desperate Afterlife.
Well, that
And
is
I
a
thought
mouthful.
long and hard about using that word theodicy. I did because A, this is actually a theodicy in a fiction. A theodicy is defense of the justness of God. Um, and one of the characters has an interview with God, although at the time he's not sure it's God or his own, imagination. And I was also trying to play on the sound of theodicy and odyssey, and maybe that was some people may not like it, but I didn't want someone picking up the book and going, what am I getting into here, and not realizing that there is going to be a discussion of good and evil. But it's also a tale. It's a love story. It's an adventure story, and I'm hoping that that carries everyone past, any kind of conversations that they're like usually wouldn't find in fiction. When I read fiction, I look for books that challenge me in some way. I enjoy outside the box kind of thinking, I guess. And so as I was writing this, I was in the, well, will anyone want to read this? And then the advice is, well, write what you would want to read. And so that's what I did.
So, how
I do
many
think people will like it though, Douglas.
how many books have you written at this point?
Well, I got started late. So this is my first published book. It's a debut novel. I have another complete novel that I'm working on editing. It was my Master of Arts thesis. And I have a sequel to this one that I'm about 18,000 words into.
Can you give us a definition of theodicy?
Theodicy was a term coined by a philosopher named Leibniz. He was a contemporary of Newton's, and it basically, but they had been around before. Theodicy is a defense of the justness of God in the face of evil. So, why do good people suffer? Why is there evil? Those are questions that a theodicy looks into.
So, it's a noun.
Yes,
Okay.
but I
All right.
turned it into something else. There's a cartoon by, you remember Calvin and Hobbes. There's a Calvin and Hobbes cartoon that addresses this concept in English. Calvin, is talking about how words can start becoming other things, and he ends the cartoon strip with verbing weirds language. So
Ah.
basically, we who speak English have a very flexible language, and I took the word theodicy and used it instead of as a noun, as an adjective.
Oh,
So
okay. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your backstory? Uh,
my personal backstory, not the
yeah.
novel's backstory.
No, tell
Oh,
us a little bit about the author. Yeah.
tell us about the author. Well, the author is a retiree. I am teaching at the University of Indianapolis. I got my master's degree rather late in life. My job for 20 years had been in proofreading at a major publisher. And my job got shipped to India. And lo and behold, because of that, I got a 2-year program and was able to get a master's degree. But I actually got my Bachelor of Arts in Creative Writing near about 20 years before that. And again, that was another late in life thing. So I've been one of those people who, I spent my youth hitchhiking across the country now and then, playing in bands, just doing the things that I always thought would be, I don't know, make for a more interesting life when you stop and you look back at it when you're older. So I did a little bit of that. I am married. I've been married for 39 years. I have two
Oh,
grandchildren, one son, one child, a son. Um, and I spent a lot of years in factories before I finally got my bachelor's degree. And after that, I was getting ready to get a Master of Arts in teaching English as a second language when the funding ran out. and that's how I ended up at the publisher. So I sort of looped things around a bit. I wasn't thinking ahead of how do you do your biography. When I write these things down, I can put them in better order. So that's a little bit about me. I have a sort of prepared biography it's a little more poetic than that.
That's all right. That one was good. I want to ask you about, you said playing in bands, because I'm also a musician,
Hmm.
semi-retired. I don't play out live anymore, but I do studio work. What
Yeah.
did you play?
I played bass guitar.
Bass, okay.
I had some grade school training on cello, and that made bass guitar a rather natural step up. And you know, practice with some local bands, garage bands, wedding bands, and then when I spent about a year in Austin, Texas, and got paid a little bit. I mean, we're talking change, right? The band collects $20
Oh,
at the end
well,
of the
I'm
night,
sure.
so theoretically, I crossed over into semi-professional. But the last band I was in a few years later was I think in the late no 80 1980, and it was a blues band. And after that, after I got married, I hadn't played in years, and my wife bought me a bass guitar a few years ago, thinking I'd want to get back into it, and my hands had completely forgotten the frets, and my ear had gone rusty, if you want to call it. But I also realized all musicians spend a great deal of time mastering their instruments, and I
True.
had to make a choice between pursuing writing and pursuing music. I mean, if you've been in bands, being in a band is almost like being in a marriage. You spend hours with other people, and
Yeah,
if you don't, you're not any good.
that's true.
So I made a conscious decision to basically not pick up music again to play.
What about studio work? Do you write?
Write
Write
music?
music or lyrics or
Oh
something?
no, no.
No.
I learned to read music twice and forgot both times. So when I played guitar in bands, it was like, okay, we're going to move, here's the chord progression, and I play it by ear.
Okay.
So,
What kind? You
yeah.
said you played blues. Was
The
it?
last band I was in was a band. Yeah, we spent hours and hours practicing. We played one gig, and the rhythm guitarist and the drummer both said that basically they made excuses for leaving the band. And after all the time we spent getting ready to play, I was rather disappointed that they just bugged out. So that was part of why I left music. I was at the time I was spending most of my time creating a couple of oil paintings. I also do oil paintings. There used to be one on the wall behind me. Um, and I thought, well, I'll do that instead. And I ended up giving some of them away. But again, that after I got married kind of, I had a brief revival of graphic arts, of the visual arts when I was in college in the 90s as an undergraduate. And I was accepted into the Heron School of Art. And my wife and I sat down and I realized when you do studio work, you spend a lot of time and a lot of money because the oil paints and things add up, and decided instead to finish a degree in English.
How old were you when you went to college? Just curious.
I had been going on and off to college since shortly after high school. So that would be graduated in 71 and started going to IU in South Bend in 72 or 3 and took my first creative writing classes at that time. And but I spent most of my time working, factories, warehouses, and such. And after I got married, my wife and I both had not finished our bachelor's degrees, and we just decided this is it. We're going to do this. And we were both going to school and homeschooling our son at the same time, as 30-something-year-old adults in the 90s.
Oh, okay. So college for you was not a continuous thing, but a stop, start sort of thing. Yeah.
Yes, and without the common college living on campus and being a member of some kind of fraternity experience. So I was the returning adult. The university I went to, Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis, long name, had a great many returning adult students, so we weren't as out of place as I might have been on other campuses.
I don't know that you miss that much not being a member of a fraternity. Um,
Uh, I probably wouldn't have joined a fraternity even if I'd gone straight into college after high school.
so you managed to dodge the Vietnam War?
By sheer luck, I got
Yeah.
a draft number of about 267 or something. It was
Oh,
really
okay.
high. Um,
Good for you.
and I had contemporaries in my high school art classes who got draft numbers in single digits. I still don't know what happened to them. So yeah, the war was current. It was maybe the last year for the draft, but they were still drafting people when I was in high school.
Because looking at your bio, you're like 9 years older than me.
Okay.
And I was just too young for the Vietnam War, but I had a lot of friends whose older brothers
Hmm.
went, and some of them never came back. So, Vietnam is very much a part of my growing up as a kid, definitely.
Oh yeah, and for me, I was being that those few years older. I was also when we invaded Cambodia, I was out in a peace march.
Ah,
So I've got a little bit of that background. I think I might have been 18. I went to Vladimir Lenin's birthday party by invitation at a rally in a park and had my first cold beer.
wow.
Um, we were all complaining. This was 68. We were all complaining about the Soviet invasion of Czechoslovakia.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow, takes you back. Ah, but the music was great back then, wasn't it? Those were
Oh, I
the
still love
height of the
it. Back.
music. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. We do have to kind of wrap this up. We are 15 minutes of fame is winding down very quickly. Do you have a website you want to give out or anything that people
I'll
can
give you
kind
the
of check you
website.
out?
It's organpipesofthesoul.com.
All one word. Yeah.
All one word. And the first three chapters of the novel are available for people to read. The novel has three point of view characters. They tell the story. So in
Okay.
those first three chapters, potential readers, potential buyers, readers of the book will be able to be introduced to all of the point of view characters. Um, the first one is probably the major character. He's the driver of the changes that go on, and he's the person who has the theodicy. He's the one who meets God. His name is Arthur. Um, the entire novel takes place in the afterlife. Every person in it is dead when the novel starts. The
Wow.
second point of view character is his love in the real world and home, and her name is Elle. And the third point of view character sort of walked in unexpectedly when I was rewriting the novel for this third time, I think it was. Her name is Coyote. And when I got to chapter 3, I simply typed in Coyote awoke with a hole in her heart, and I had a brand new character I hadn't had before. So she told her story. So she had been a Marine. She had been Border Patrol when she was killed. She feels as if she doesn't belong there. So these are the three characters in the story. It's a lot of it has to do with the ethics and even somewhat the mechanism of reincarnation. Um, so it does discuss, the justice and the nature of God, but a lot of the time is spent discussing reincarnation, and it is key to the story.
How long has the book been out?
It should have been out August 25th, and my publisher got back with me and said, well, we're pushing it out to September, and I still don't have the firm date in September.
Oh, okay.
So I wish I had that for you. I've asked him a couple times, and I think he'll get back with me shortly. But at this time, I do not have the firm publishing date. I only know
Okay.
September.
September sometime. Well, we're here,
Yeah,
first week, so we'll see. Maybe it'll come out this month.
I do.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your
Thank you,
story with
Douglas.
us.